This is Tar Heel Illustrated publisher Andrew Jones, along with staff writer Jacob Turner, coming to you from the Keenum Football Center here in Chapel Hill. We just had a chance to speak with offensive coordinator Phil Longo for the first time since fall camp started. And Jacob, they've had 10 practices. They're at the midpoint before they get into game week preparation. Fall camp will be over in a few days. And really the focus with Coach Longo today was quarterbacks. Everybody in the media, about a dozen members of the media there, almost all the questions were about the quarterback situation. So that's what we're pretty much going to hit on here. And basically the message is they're all even.
Yep.
Nobody's ahead, nobody's behind. He did discern some differences in the three quarterbacks, which we'll get to in just a moment. But even 10 practices in, they had a scrimmage Saturday. Jay Schroeder did not play, lower body injury, but Cade Fortin and Sam Howell did. They're even. That's what they're saying. They're even. What do you think?
I have some different thoughts on that. From what the coaches and players are telling us, all we've heard all camp is that they're even. We haven't got a lot out of them at the same time, which I completely understand. We don't really expect to get a ton out of them at that position, especially when it comes down to it, you're dealing with two redshirt freshmen and one true freshman. So I can see why it's been like that. For me, I find it a little hard to believe that there's not some kind of separation, and I think there is behind the scenes. I think if you're watching these kids every day, if you're a football coach, there's some kind of separation, especially at this point, over a week into fall camp. But at the same time, that's not what they're telling us. They're saying that it's very even, and I think it is very close. I think if there's any separation, it's very minute at this point. But I do find it hard to believe that everybody is equal and at equal pace right now. I know they're all talented. It's a good problem to have having three quarterbacks like that. But we're going to continue to have to watch how this plays out. But I think it's going to come down to you're going to see a couple guys in the first game, and until then, it's up for grabs who's going to eventually win the starting spot.
And when they say equal, they're not saying they're all three carbon copies. I think what you've got is one guy's a downtown condo, like a penthouse condo in a great part of town, near all the coffee shops and the bars and stuff. Another guy's a nice big townhouse a couple miles away. Another guy's a big house in the suburb.
Yeah.
In the end, they all have the same value, but they bring something different. There's a different flavor.
Exactly.
And Longo did tell us those differences today. Jay Schroeder, best athlete of the three. Cade Fortin throws the best ball. Sam Howell, a little bit of both. Sort of a combination of the both, but he's even. So that tells me maybe there's an experience thing there. I don't really know. I don't want to read too much of it because we've only seen a couple of practices and not even full practices. It's all they allow the media in. And we see just a snapshot of what they've seen. So we can't hang our hat entirely on what we've witnessed. So we have to hear what they say and just kind of hear what the players say. And the guys kind of laugh and smile when you ask them which quarterback is kind of stepping ahead. Miles Dorn's probably the only one that gave us anything the other day after the scrimmage, and he said they're all crazy accurate. That was a direct quote. Okay, so they're all accurate. But one of these guys eventually is going to progress forward. Now, I asked Coach Longo today, I said, okay, is this an issue where they're all just getting better each day at the same rate? Or is it one guy steps ahead and then he steps back and the other two step ahead the next day, or incrementally over the course of the week it all kind of evens out? He didn't really answer the question.
No.
And I think it's probably more that.
Yeah.
Because if they were all progressing at the same rate, I think the edge would go to the guy who's been here the least amount of time, because it would show a faster progress rate. Going from just arriving in the spring or in January in Sam Howell to being equal with the other two. Again, we're reading a lot into it, but that's what we have to do given the circumstances right now, because they're not going to play three against South Carolina. No. I know that some people think, boy, that'd be kind of cool, but they can't. They can't do that to the team. I think that they'll play two, but they're going to know within a couple of weeks who the guy is. Even if they have an idea that they would like to maybe see step forward, they have to show them what they want in order to be the guy that steps forward.
We've talked about this off camera, but there's not but so much, at least in my opinion, I think you'd agree with me, that you can tell from a quarterback during practice and scrimmages. I think when it comes to getting real live game reps, that's when guys really start to separate themselves. And Mac Brown said it since day one. He said the quarterback that's going to start is the guy that can lead us down the field and score touchdowns. It's very simple. I mean, that's what the quarterback position is there for. But as simple as that sounds, it's not as simple as trying to identify who can actually do that, especially in fall camp, especially going into practice. Now, there might be a little bit more separation when they transition, and when school starts, they actually transition to practice. Right now, we're obviously in fall camp, so guys are still trying to learn the basics. Guys are still going through some I'm sure, some installment periods that you expect from a new staff. So the fact that there's not a lot of separation right now is not necessarily unexpected. But like you said, Playing 3 guys is not a good idea in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with that, and maybe it would maybe be cool to see. But I think from a team standpoint, it's not fair to a team. It's not fair to offense, and I don't think that's how you get the best out of an offense, especially in a first game like that. Now, running 2 guys I think is very likely, and I think that's what will happen. But trying to identify who those 2 guys will be is what this coaching staff will be working on up until August 31st, obviously.
All offenses rely on chemistry.
Yep.
All offenses rely on this sort of timing. This one, there's a little bit more freelance nature to it, so the chemistry is even more important.
Yeah.
You have to understand tendencies of your guys. You have to be able to read what they're doing in advance, because the receivers are told, find grass. Well, it may not be a scripted path in order to find the grass, so the quarterback has to know, okay, Diami's going to cut left here, Diami's going to cut right. They have to have those reps together, and not just reps throwing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in June. They have to have reps with live defense.
Exactly.
With Power 5 defensive backs covering the guys. And the more of those they get, the better they're going to be prepared for the opener. So when you have an offense like the air raid, which is going to go fast, and the chemistry is so incredibly important, how many reps does this guy have with this group of receivers, that guy with this group of receivers? They can only give them so much. So it is important that by Saturday, this coming Saturday, they'll have their second scrimmage. At that point, I would think that something has to move. There has to be some kind of separation, because it's human nature. Max said a couple weeks ago, look, this is going to naturally take care of itself. 10 days in, it hasn't yet, not even with 2 of them.
No.
No one's dropped back, no one's stepped forward. I think it's a fascinating issue.
Really
I wish we could watch all of every practice, even if we swear to keep quiet and not talk publicly about it.
It's tough.
Just because I think from a coaching standpoint, this has to be a lot of fun.
It does, yeah.
Because these guys are competing. They're already in mid-September, mid-October mode as far as competing. So whoever does eventually win the job, I think they're going to be in the right frame of mind. Mm-hmm. They're gonna win the respect of their teammates. Whoever it is that's on the field, when South Carolina or when Miami comes down, or whoever takes the field when Clemson is in town in week 5, I think the rest of the guys are going to be totally bought into whoever has that job, because they'll know that they didn't win it by default. They won it by being the best of 3 quality quarterbacks.
And Andrew, I wrote a piece about Phil Longo a couple months ago, and one thing that he dealt with when he was at Sam Houston State was the fact that he had guys. He had a time when he was the offensive coordinator there. We had 4 freshman quarterbacks, so it's not a new area for him, and he's dealt with this. I mean, it's a little bit different here, the fact that he has 2 redshirt freshmen and 1 true freshman. But when it comes down to it, nobody has played a lot of ball at the Division I college, at the ACC level. So I think there's a great guy in place to try to figure out who's going to win the spot when you think about Phil Longo. And when it comes down to it, it's going to come down to who can get the team down the field, who can score the most points, who can gel with their teammates the best. And like you said, it's such a competitive battle right now that whoever wins this job, in my opinion, has to ultimately and quickly earn the respect of the teammates from that, because of just how talented these 3 guys are. Every player will tell you that there's no separation. Every player will tell you that whoever they roll with, they're going to be fine with. So I think whoever wins this job is going to have the respect of their teammates, is going to have the confidence of their teammates. And no disrespect to Nathan Elliott, but the team last year, I just don't think they had that. And I think that's one of the reasons the offense struggled so much.
I think they respected Nathan. Nathan was a really good leader. But I think there were so many elements to last year.
Exactly.
Hamstrung them before they even landed in Berkeley.
Exactly.
I think what this really comes down to is do you want to have that penthouse in the city center?
Yeah.
Do you want to have that nice condo or that nice townhouse sort of on the outskirts of downtown, or the mansion out in the suburbs?
It's a great problem to have.
I mean, it's a great problem to have, and at different points in my life, I would have gravitated toward different ones. What does this team need? Who fits this team the best? Is it the guy who could do a little bit of everything? Is it the guy who could throw over the top? Is it the guy who could tuck it in and run? They're really confident with 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. I think the center spot is an area that they're not super confident with. Teams might be bringing guys over the middle, so maybe you need that quarterback that can get out of there quickly and throw on the run and make things happen with his legs. That would be Reuter. Or maybe you want to have a guy get back there, quickly get rid of it. Maybe that's Fortin. Or maybe you have a guy that's just everything is situational. Yeah. Maybe Sam's talents respond to situational defenses better. We don't know. The coaches, I think, are getting a pretty good idea. They're just going to ultimately have to decide what is it they want, especially if nobody really steps forward. And that could happen. I mean, these guys are all pretty good. They're all rated similarly coming out of high school. Maybe Fortin was hurt in the ratings because of the injury he had his senior year in high school, but these are all really good kids. These are all Power 5 starting quarterbacks at some point in their college career. So it's not a bad problem to have, but it's also one that you want to rectify sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you got to rectify it sooner rather than later. And I mean, like I said, we've said it so many times, but it's very cliche to say, but it's such a good problem to have when you consider that you've got 3 talented guys. And like you mentioned, it's about picking which one you want to roll with, because they all bring different things to the table. I think Fortin's not as mobile, but he's got a great ball. Hal's mobile and he's got a good ball, so it's the best of both worlds. I mean, granted, he's not super mobile, but if you go watch his high school tape, he's a guy that does not shy away from contact, and he ran a lot at Sun Valley too. And then you consider Reuter, who's maybe doesn't have a huge arm or as big of an arm as Fortin, but he's also mobile. He's a guy that I've compared to Mitch Trubisky in terms of stature and how big he is. I mean, even last year, he was probably the biggest quarterback in that group as a true freshman. Yeah. The biggest concern with him coming out of high school was the fact that he played in Kansas, didn't play the biggest amount of competition. But I think he's shown since then that he can excel at this level. And he's shown well in the Georgia Tech game last year. Fortin showed well in the 2 games he played, but you got to remember, they didn't win either of those games either. So there's not a lot of separation between these guys. Like you mentioned, it's going to come down to who do you want to start, who do you trust the most, and what aspects in a quarterback are you looking for the most in Phil Longo's offense.
One thing is for sure, when we do one of these next week, when we focus on the quarterback, say next Monday, if we're still talking about the same problem, I think then it's not a great problem to have. Yeah. There has to be separation, at least with one player moving up or moving back here in the next week or so, because they're less than 3 weeks before the opener.
Not far
away.
It's
Monday right now, so they're 19 days. They're going to be in Charlotte playing the Gamecocks. They got to get this thing straightened out sooner rather than later. For Jacob Turner, this is Andrew Jones. You are watching us on Tar Heel Illustrated. Go to tarheelillustrated.com. Check out our site. Become a subscriber. Go on our message boards. Be a member of our community. We interact with our community every day. It's one of the great things about our site that so many people tell me they enjoy. Just send a question up, post a question on there to Jacob. He'll answer. Post one to me, I'll answer. We don't shy away. We love to be a part of that community. tarheelillustrated.com. Thanks a lot.